Hi, this is Dina for Splitcoaststampers. In this video, I've got a stencil technique that will give you two opposite stenciled backgrounds using a resist technique. I'm starting off with a quarter sheet of watercolor paper, and I'm going to keep my stencil in position by taping it from the back. And I've also got a sticky note that I'll stick to the back of my panel, and that will give me something to hold on to while I work. I'm going to use Versamark ink to cover my stencil and also to squish through all the stencil openings. And when I'm done, I want a layer of ink on the stencil, and I want to see the stencil pattern on the watercolor paper as well. I'm going to set the inked paper aside, and I have a clean piece of watercolor paper here. I've got the platform for my die cutting machine with a silicone embossing pad, and I'm going to lay down my paper and then the stencil with the ink side down, and you can tape that in place if you want to. I didn't do that this time. And I'll go ahead and run that through my die cutting machine with my cutting plate on the top, and that will press the stencil into the paper, and it will also transfer the ink to the paper anywhere the stencil presses in. I'm going to use my sticky note again to hang on to the panel so I don't get my fingers in the way of my embossing powder. And then I will use clear embossing powder to coat all the areas that are inky. And I went ahead and did that on both panels. And then I used my heat gun to melt the powder. So now that the stenciling is done, we have two embossed panels with opposite designs, and you can use any wet medium for a resist technique. I just did ink blending on mine here, but you could use watercolor powders, watercolor paint, re-inkers, spray mists. You can do a smushing technique. Just feel free to let your own inspiration take over at this point. After I finished inking, I used a dry paper towel to just buff away any excess ink that was sitting on top of the embossing powder, and that is pretty much it. I used the same embellishments to create my two cards. Pretty simple, with just a couple of die cuts and a little copper thread. This is a really easy technique and a fun way to get both a positive and negative design from your stencils. So I hope you'll try it and share your results, and I thank you so much for watching.